So let me just share with you Paul Johnson's reactions to Rousseau, and I choose his because they're very well organized. You can always go back to the chapter in his book if you want to and look at them again. So here's some of the basic stuff. So what's the importance of this great Rousseau rebellion? And we don't just mean the one discourse. There are other things he wrote in his life. So Rousseau altered some of the basic assumptions about civilized man and shifted around the furniture of the human mind. The span of his influence is wide, can be grouped under 5 headings. First, all our modern ideas about education are affected by Rousseau's thoughts. And most of you will recognize a lot of the things in this that would be visible in 19th and 20th century modern education. He popularized to some extent, invented the cult of nature, the taste for the open air, the quest for freshness, spontaneity. He introduced the critique of urban sophistication. All of this you recognize. All of this is repeated again and again in 19th century and 20th century. And as I said, very recently, the hippies in Haight-Ashbury lived according to Rousseau. Number 2, he rejects the whole progressive vision of the Enlightenment. Now, this is one of the most important things in Rousseau and in 1750 and in the critique that he will write, because up to 1750, up to the Enlightenment, the leading intellectuals of Western civilization had concluded that the efforts of our civilization together, English civilization, French civilization, Swedish civilization, all together, were cumulatively advancing progress. And progress became a key belief of 18th century Enlightenment. And he kills that. He stops it. He rejects that. He distrusts the progressive improvements brought about by civilization. In this sense, he rejects the Enlightenment. He insists that reason itself can only go far, so that the entire project of the Enlightenment, and like projects that come along in the 19th century and the 20th century, are wrong because they can't advance human beings. The important things won't be improved. 3, he rejects the whole idea of the progress of the Enlightenment by reason. He's rejecting reason, and he's replacing it with introspection and inner self. Look into oneself. Selfies. So in this, the beginning of both the Romantic movement and the modern introspective literature, in it, he took the discovery of the individual, the prime achievement of the Renaissance, a giant stage further, delving into the self. He calls it love of self. This is a key idea of Romanticism. And all the origins, all of what we have in the 21st century, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of it is self. It's look at the self, look into the self. No word better to convey that than selfies. What better word could we invent that would be better to explain what we've got that's now, in our day, 200 years old plus, goes back to Rousseau. For example, a photo of your pizza. And then you Facebook it to everybody in the world on your list, and you say, look, here's the pizza I'm eating on University Avenue in Palo Alto. I'm not joking. I'm not inventing this. You all know that all kinds of people do that, and the head of Facebook did it. The head of Facebook is famous for having done this, and I'm sure he still does do it. So you can see, yes, so you can see the pizza he's eating. So the look to inner self is subjectivism, and it's a rejection of objectivism. Objectivism is science. Objectivism is reason. Objectivism is a set of intellectual methods that are separate from you. Subjectivism is looking into yourself for everything. You always start with yourself. You conclude truths about things by looking inside. Okay. 4, the rejection of competition. He suggests in his little history of nature and of human beings that civilization set us against each other, that we begin hurting each other because we're competing with each other. And if we were just left alone, if we could just go back to nature, we would all be so good to each other, we'd be so sweet, we'd be so nice. Now, when all this was written in 1750, we didn't have the whole field of archaeology and anthropology yet. It was about to be born. Now, in our time, we have 200 years of results of anthropology and archaeology, and there's no question that human beings in the wild are not nice to each other. One of the most important books ever written on this was Konrad Lorenz's book on aggression. And he explains, anthropologist, that every single study of every single species of animal that ever lived on the planet shows they beat each other up. They steal their women, they steal their territory, they steal their bananas, they steal everything. So there's no question that Rousseau was wrong. But this is a key idea. It's alive and well in our time, and it's a very important myth. Now, the next thing is maybe socially and historically and critically the most important of all, and that was his rejection of private property. He said that when we're in nature, we don't need to seize property and put fences around it because we all cooperate with each other. And if there's a stream, we all go down the stream together and we're all happy and we watch our little babies down there at the stream, and then we all go home and we make our pancakes and we're happy together, we're all happy together. And it's only when nasty civilization starts building all these fences that we get wars and the repression of human freedom. Well, you can imagine who in the 19th century like this. His name is Karl Marx. You can see it right there up on the screen. Karl Marx had a bust of Rousseau on his desk. So all of Marxism, all of communism is Rousseau, all of it. So it's now almost 200 years old, the formal theories of Marx. They're almost 200 years old. And they all start with Rousseau. And they all start with the myth, because anthropologists and archaeologists have made it perfectly clear it's not true, with the myth that human beings are really nice to each other when they're in nature. If you just let us all go back to nature, we would be sweet as can be. So here we get the central reversal of 18th century civilization and culture, 1750, Rousseau. Rejects the encyclopedia, writes his essay, wins the prize, setting myself against everything. I can only await a universal outcry, and instead they gave him the prize.